Guys.
And welcome in everybody to the Summit City Sports Report. This is the 17th episode, Tim, since we started here about 5 weeks ago. We've had a great time talking with all the coaches, and we have head coach Kurt Tippmann, the reigning Class 5A Coach of the Year. And Coach, thanks so much for joining Tim and I.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you.
You as well, Coach. Just wanted to start off with the previous game here, Coach. Obviously, you go over to Carroll. It's been a great rivalry the last couple of years, really ever since Carroll joined the SAC. This is one of the premier matchups on the season. But Snider goes in and drops a tough one, 30-6. But, Coach, just your thoughts and your message to the team after the game, your thoughts about Friday?
Well, I think, to beat a good team, you have to play well. And there are certain areas where we played well, and there's certain areas that we didn't play well. And as you analyze, it's always good to analyze it, with the film. You can identify very specific things that you can get better at, and positions that need to get better at, and make those assessments. And I think the good thing about it is, I'm not sure where that feedback's coming from. Is that me or you?
That might be me. Let's try it. Nope, I got my AirPods on. It shouldn't be me.
All those mistakes, I think, are encouraging in the fact that we can fix a lot of those things. The other part, playing against a quarterback that might be the best we've had around here in a while. And, he made a couple plays that were, what special players do. And, he made some throws, and the receiver made some catches that were pretty special at key times. Those are some of those plays that can go either way, and they made the plays, we didn't. I think that can happen in a lot of those games when two good teams play each other. Offensively, we had to get some things fixed, and but we know we're a young offense. We're starting basically 10 new guys on offense, and a young offensive line, and young receivers, young quarterback in terms of experience, and young running backs. And so we know it's going to take a while for us to be an upper echelon team. But then our players have to embrace the difficulty and what it takes to get to be a good team. And that's kind of what we've been talking about this week. It's hard to be a good team. It's hard to be a good player. It requires all kinds of effort. But, our effort's great. It requires a different kind of focus, a different kind of intensity to go about things. It requires you to be humble enough to be critiqued and to listen to those so that you can fix those mistakes and get out to the field and work on them. So, being good is hard. And, as these young guys come up, they've been around two varsity teams that lost 3 games in 2 years, and, won a state championship, went to the semi-state, lost in overtime, and just didn't get beat by a lot of people. So they're used to just rolling out there on Friday night and watching the black and gold win. Mm-hmm. And now that they're in charge of that, it's a little more difficult than what it looked like those other guys playing in front of them. So that's all part of the learning process. That's nothing new. I think every successful team, successful program goes through those kinds of growing pains, but our players have to embrace that challenge and get to work on the things that we need to fix it. I think I'm confident we will improve, and we need to improve because that's a team we could play again in the playoffs.
And Coach, you have great leadership, not good leadership, but great leadership at the top. We've talked about your 4 seniors all year, and there are other kids that we could mention, but Landon Fry, Brandon Logan, Calabote, Adam Blakey. How did these guys take that leadership role into the weekend and into practice this week as you guys are preparing for Homestead on Friday?
Well, those guys are certainly great leaders. They're great players. But leadership is a lot more than just being the best players on the team. In fact, as we, talk about leadership, it oftentimes is the guy that invests the most in his teammates. And all four of those guys you mentioned do that. But we have a lot of other seniors too that care about their team, and, that their words have to be influential to the younger players. And, those guys that were on the field last year doing those hard things to become a good team, we have to hear their voices. Our young players have to hear their voices. But those young players are only going to listen to those older players if those older players have invested in the life of that younger player. If those older players have got out of their little world and got into the world of those juniors and those sophomores and spent time, with those younger players and helping them develop. So, I mean, it's certainly our best players are prominent, but to truly have influence in the team and to truly move the team in the direction that we want, that's a process that started way back when. And, those guys certainly embrace that and are doing that. And our entire senior class, I think, are a good group of leaders. And, it's up to them to make that impact on the younger players so that the younger players believe in it. The younger players have to buy into that philosophy of the work that it takes to become a good team. And when your seniors are expressing that same sentiment and you're pushing towards that same thing, I think you get, a quicker, level of improvement than if it's just the coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, Coach, I mean, just looking at the numbers, I mean, you guys really held Jimmy in check. I mean, his completion percentage way down, 40%, but did throw those 3 touchdowns and really hurt you guys on the ground as well. And I think he slept on a little bit as a runner. You've been around the game and the players in the city of Fort Wayne a long time. Can you push or place Jimmy on the scale of what you've seen quarterbacks here come out of the city of Fort Wayne?
Well, I mean, he played very well Friday night, and I told him at the end of the game, we've played him 3 times now since his sophomore year, and we are a defense that in the course of those 3 years, and we've thrown everything schematically that you can throw at a quarterback. We've disguised coverages, we've late rotations, we've locked up and played man with really talented guys. We've faked blitzes. We've disguised this. We've sent 8. We've sent 3. We've dropped 8. We've done a little bit of everything in those 3 games. And to his credit and his coaching, he's handled all of it. And he's handled it very well. And I think what that's a sign of is he's going to be a successful college quarterback. He's very smart. He's very even keel too. He doesn't get emotionally, up and down. He just seems to be very even keel, which, that's what you want a quarterback to be. In terms of his physical skills, he's very fast. He's strong. He's bigger than he was last year. So, he's a load when you hit him. But he made 3 throws that were phenomenal, and 3 throws that we're hitting him as he's throwing it, and he threw it. There's no better place he could have thrown it, and it was just perfect. And certainly the receiver made a good catch, but he made 3 unbelievable plays. We did a good job with the run game. He got us on 2 draws at the end of the first half that got him in good field goal position. But, other than that, we really did a good job on him in the run game. And like I said, I think 9 of 23 or 10 of 23, something like that, in terms of the completion percentage, which I think going into the game, he was maybe 78%, something extremely high.
Right.
So, we're happy with a lot of things that we did, but, there are some other plays out there that we could have made that he made. And that's the sign of a great player. And where does he rank in the list of great quarterbacks that we've played? It's hard to figure out because every team's different. But I know this: there aren't a lot of guys that could have made the plays that he made on Friday night. There's just very few high school quarterbacks that can do some of the things that he does. And we've just not seen that very often around here. The combination of the big strength and the athleticism, I think, is unique. We've played some really big, strong arm quarterbacks, in the past, but he seems to, be able to run it. And, I probably, this is a name of the past, but Johnny Goodman might be one of the best games any quarterback has ever played against us in a game. And I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but he didn't miss a throw and, ran the ball well. I mean, did all kinds of that sticks in my mind as a defensive coach of the best game of quarterback. But you go back to the Darnell Levettes. There's a name from the past you might remember, but I mean, he was a guy you couldn't tackle. He couldn't stop. And that go through the history. There are a lot of great Homestead quarterbacks, Zach Terrell, and that just, threw for a ton of yards and there are all kinds of challenges. That's one of the cool things about this conference. There's always great players that pose all kinds of great challenges. And Jimmy certainly is on that list of some of the best. And I think, his greatness and his success is still yet to be written. For those guys, I just see him getting better and better and better. And it'll be fun to watch him at the next level because I think he's very well equipped to have success at the college level.
Yeah, and you mentioned it out, the fans and the alumni of the black and gold, expect you to just roll it out there, and it's as simple as that. This has been a tough schedule. I mean, Warren Central, we look back at that, outstanding team. We all know, we've talked about them at length. That East Noble win really sticks out now. Jeff and I saw them last Friday against Leo. They are a complete football team in 4A. And this sectional number 2, you mentioned it. You could be playing this Carroll team again. Is that something you stuck with your kids after, said, hey, we got to learn from this? We could see them in the first round of sectionals. You never know how that draw is going to play out. How did you address that at all with the kids? That this is a team that we got to dissect this film and really move forward. We may see them in the future. Of course, Homestead's next, but was that ever said after the game?
Well, not in a revenge manner. I think that's the way we approach every game is, whether we're winning or losing, the work that's ahead of you really is non-contingent on the win or the loss. Gotcha. The work that's ahead of you is predicated on the evaluation of what you did well, what you did not do well, what you're still struggling with, what deficiencies you have. And, to get an honest assessment of that, each week is our goal. And we study the film Friday night and Saturday morning, before we meet with the kids, so that when they show up Saturday morning, we can talk about, these are the things that we need to get better at. And a lot of it's technical. A lot of it's not effort. Our kids play very, very hard, but it's technical things. And those are items that can be fixed with just more and more reps and practice and attention to the details of what that technique involves. And, that's harder for a young guy. The more experience you have, the better that is. But, in some cases it's a kid that's going to struggle to do some of those things because of their physical ability or lack thereof. And in other cases, there's plenty of athletic ability, but it requires the focus and attention and buy-in that if I do these things, I'll be able to play better. It's very natural for a high school age kid to go out and play and just want to use their athleticism and their instinct. And that's certainly part of it. But for us, the ingredients of being a really good football player and a really good football team, it's a combination of your physical skills along with great technical proficiency and great technical, precision on details. And, when we are a good team, we have players that play with both athleticism and strength and power, but also technique. And that's the challenge for us as coaches and players, is to continue to develop that.
And Coach, when you talk about your players being technically sound, I imagine the younger a team is, the more you might see those mistakes, where obviously the older your team is, more senior laden, those guys have more reps. That stuff is more muscle memory and something that maybe you don't have to stress as much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to master a skill, you got to have 10,000 reps at something. And that takes a lot of practices and games to log that number of reps. But certainly, and, again, it depends on the physical abilities of the player. And some kids, get to that proficient level quicker than others, but it doesn't matter when you get there, as long as, that's your goal, because then by the time the playoffs come, you want to be able to play your best. And that's our goal. That's what our message has been. Certainly we talked about, we're going to play Carroll again, would be the hope, but not in a revenge manner, just in the manner of, we're going to see this stuff again, and we'll find out if we got better at the things that caused us issues in the first game, whether that be 7 games later or 6 games later, whenever that is, did we get better? And that'll be a testament to our work in the time leading up to that if that ever does happen.
Yeah, well, it would be a blessing for your kids if they did get that opportunity to take on Carroll again. And before we leave Friday's game, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the sophomore linebacker, Eli Newhouser. Their defense did have some success. I saw this kid last year as a freshman. He's a pretty big guy, and he led their team with 11 tackles and 1.5 tackles for a loss. Coach, I was joking last week heading into this game, saying you have, in this game right here, some of the best collection of baseball players in the state of Indiana. Logan, Fry, you got Newhouser, and you got Wagner over there at Carroll. But what were your thoughts about that big linebacker?
Well, he's big. I think you said it. He's big. He's physical. He's hard to block because of that size. We're a little bit undersized on the offensive line, so that presents a problem. We really struggled blocking their Sam linebacker too, number 23. He really caused some issues and disrupted quite a few plays because of the way he played, and really impressed with both those guys. But yeah, anytime a sophomore has that size and already is playing at that level, that's somebody that's going to be good for them for a couple more years.
And Coach, that game started off pretty well for you guys, with Landon Fry breaking through and getting that sack. And then on the next series, the interception happens. And it just kind of seemed like, last year in that Homestead game, Coach Isaac said that the guys just weren't really feeling it there in the second half and kind of let that game slip away. Do you feel like some of the wind was taken out of the sails after, you get that sack and force them to a punt, but then you get an interception, leads to a touchdown? And I heard that it was a very electric environment over there at Carroll. But did you feel like that was a turning point in the game?
Well, I mean, I think it certainly doesn't help us. You can't turn the ball over, but I think the sign of a good team is you're resilient among the things that happen early in the game. Certainly that didn't determine the outcome of the game, and we as coaches and as players need to respond to that event. No matter, in the Homestead game is the exact opposite, as you referenced the Homestead game from last year. We got up 14 points right away. We got up easy. So the exact opposite. And then we got complacent and, didn't play with the same intensity in the remaining part of the game, and then couldn't get it back. Well, in this case, things don't go well for us at the beginning of the game. Neither one is a reason to stop the level of focus and intensity that you have to play. And, I would say that anybody that said, well, that hurt you. Well, no kidding. It hurt you. Anytime you turn the ball over, it did. Not an excuse to say, that's the reason why we lost. We didn't lose because of one interception or 2 interceptions. We lost because of a list of things that we didn't do well, that Carroll did do well, that we have to combat. And sometimes, we get too caught up in some of those events, single events, that there's a whole culmination of things that I think go a lot more into determining the outcome of the game.
And last thought before we move to Friday's game, what an environment they have out there at Carroll with the fireworks and all that. Great athletic director out there in Dan Ginder. You have a great one in Zimbo as well. How fun is it for the kids to go to that college style-ish football stadium? Were they pretty hyped to play in that stadium? I know a lot of times it'd be their first time playing in there. I know not your seniors, but first time playing in that. Did they take anything away from that? Was the moment a little bit too big for them, or just got outplayed?
I didn't get that feeling. I think they were excited to play. They knew it was going to be an electric atmosphere. There's always a big crowd for the Carroll Snider game, whether it's out there or at our home. There's a couple games on the schedule where there's going to be a large number of people there. So I think they were excited for that atmosphere. I don't think they were intimidated or didn't perform well because of the crowd. I think it has a lot more to do with just football skill and football performance, but fun to be a part of. Anytime you get to play in that kind of atmosphere, I think that's fun. I think that's one of the cool things about playing at Snider. You're going to play in some big games every year, and that's pretty exciting.
Well, looking ahead to Friday, Coach, another 6A program, not in your sectional, but another 6A program that you can have a litmus test for the Snider Panthers moving on through the season and into the playoffs. Another good, well-respected quarterback out there in Michael White across the area. This one at home. What's your thoughts on this Friday's game and kind of the keys? What do you think it is for a Snider victory?
Well, I think, number one, we have a ton of respect for Homestead, Coach Zolman, their staff. Known those guys for a long time, and it doesn't matter what year it is, what their level of talent is. They're always very well coached. They come with a great plan. They attack things that we're not good at. They're very astute about taking advantage of the things that they do well as it relates to the things that we don't do well. They're great coaches. So this year they have a very talented group of guys. They're very well coached on the offensive line. The quarterback, really athletic, strong arm, very strong arm, and quick with his feet. And they're always, Coach Skelton, their offensive coordinator, he does a phenomenal job in constructing an offense and an offensive game plan. Always challenge us defensively. They're not as big as they've been in years past on the offensive line, but they're very well coached. They're a little quicker. So that poses a different kind of challenge. Instead of the size and power, it's more of the quickness. And they throw to really good receivers. They have a good running back. They just pose a lot of challenges for you on the defensive side of the ball because of their, how well coached they are and some of their athletes. Michael White is a guy that can take over the game by himself, running it, throwing it, kind of does a little bit of everything. And then defensively, again, well coached. They do a great job. They're athletic, physical. They fly around to the ball, and they, again, pose very good challenging for us on offense. I know we have to play better offensively. We got to play better on the offensive line. We can't turn the ball over. Those are things that go into every game plan and are requirements for us to be efficient. So. That's the challenge this week. I think special teams will be big. One of the bright spots about last week's game against Carroll was our special teams. We blocked 3 kicks, blocked a field goal, blocked an extra point, blocked a punt. We won boys in special teams. So, there's some good things to come out of that game too, and those same ingredients have to go into, competing against a good team as well.
Yeah, Coach. One of the guys we saw over there on the highlight, though, he was listed as a tight end for you, got some play at defense, but Landon Markley had that sack we saw over there on the huddle video. Are you incorporating him more and more on the defense? What are you seeing from Landon, who started off the year as a starting tight end for you?
Well, we did move him to the defensive side, out of kind of necessity. The scheme that we're playing with a lot of defensive linemen, and Landon's one of those athletic guys that can play on the edge. He's also physical enough to play in the interior, which gives us a lot of flexibility. So we're rotating 5 or 6 defensive linemen in there to be able to keep those guys fresh, but also, some of the scheme things that we choose to do. And he's one of those guys that has given us some depth in the defensive interior and on the edge.
Coach, another guy I wanted to talk about was Azeel Jordan, who's been putting up some pretty good numbers for you. Where do you have him playing, floating around on that defense?
Well, he's playing on our edge. He's playing the defensive end. Plays a lot to the field. Very, very athletic young man, tall. He's all 6'4". And as a kid, he gets better all the time. Football has not been something he played all his life, so he's kind of newer to the game. And he just continues to excel. He's got a tremendous get off. He's long arms, long legs, can run really, really well, plays with good leverage, and has been a bright spot for another one of our young defensive linemen that have come on to this year and played very, very well. We're really happy with the way Azeel is playing.
Yeah, and only a junior.
Yeah, you have a solid young core. There's no question about it. Even in the JV, in the freshman level, how satisfying is it for you to have all of these legacy type of players that the dads went through the program and now the sons are going through the program right now, like a Burton or a Mormon, those type of youngsters, and the Logan and the Bolton. Like, what does that mean to you, Coach? I know we touched on it a little bit the first time we talked, but what's your thoughts on that and the legacies?
Well, I think it's cool to coach the sons of guys you coached way back when, and you kind of get memories of spending time with their dad and what it was like coaching their dad, and some of their similarities, some of their differences. Brandon Logan Sr., him and I mean, we spent a lot of time together in the 2002, that era of Snider football, and, the 3 years that he was one of our starting linebackers. I think being the defensive coordinator at that time, I mean, we were together every day. It seemed like watching film, doing something football-wise, and he was a football sponge. Just he couldn't get enough of football. And so whether it be in the winter, we were watching film, or in the spring, and after a track meet, he'd come in and just want to, watch. Hey, let's watch, Bishop Dwenger, who we're going to play next fall. Let's watch that game again. And he'd get his buddies in there, and so guys like that, and same thing with the Burton family. Those guys. I mean, the Burton family. There's been a lot of Burtons play football here at Snider, and coach here at Snider. I've coached with Terry Burton, Willie Burton, Demetrius Burton. Those guys all coached here, and now Willie has a son, Reggie, who I played with here in the 80s. He's got a sophomore son that's playing on the team. So, some of these guys I coached, but some of these guys I played with. So, but the Burton family has been great. Great family. And then have been great football players, and that's certainly no exception to their sons that are coming up through here. But when I watch Bryson Burton as an offensive lineman play, and I think of Reggie and what it was like playing with Reggie, and when I see Braylon Burton run the ball, I think of Willie and just the time that he was here, and when I got to watch him play, or when I got to coach those guys. So it just brings back great memories and comparisons. All good things, and we love it when former players bring their kids and put them in the program, and we're able to hopefully have the same impact that we had, that they had, their dads had when they played here, whether it was with Coach Isaacs, Coach Hawley, myself it's one of those three. And that has been a common bond over the course of time. I think there's been a lot of continuity in the way we do things from those three staffs and all those guys that played for one of those three. I think there's quite a few common things that them and their sons can experience and talk about when they're at home.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, go ahead, Jeff. They're playing this.
Yeah, no, Coach. Do you have a favorite moment where the son and the dad, maybe the son came in and you were like, man, I thought that you were the dad because you're so similar. Do you have one of those moments that you can reflect on where you just had to do a double take because, maybe Brandon Logan Sr. and Brandon Logan Jr. were identical in that moment?
Well, I mean, I'm a little biased here because I've had three sons play.
That's true.
And, I mean, those are my youngest, who's currently on the team. He is a lot like me in terms of the way he plays, a little bit fiery, a little bit, very emotional, undersized for the position he's playing. Where my Jake, the middle son, he was a little bit bigger, he's a thicker kid, played linebacker, and then Hayden, the oldest, very cerebral, very smart. He took a different approach to the game because of his intelligence, but Sawyer's a little bit more like me. He just likes to crash into stuff, and he doesn't really care what it is. He just wants to hit it. So I see that a lot in him, but I see that, I guess, Brandon, because he's more recent, but the love of the game of Brandon Sr. and Brandon Jr., I think is evident on a daily basis. I mean, as I mentioned, the older Brandon Logan just loved football, loved everything about it, loved studying it, loved playing it, loved training for it. And his son is very similar to that, loves competition. Mm-hmm. He just thrives on competition and just that challenge of a game plan and then executing it and learning it and then studying who you're going to play. And he's a sponge, and it just reminds me of his dad every day I'm with him. They're different in a lot of ways too. And I think that's true of all these guys. They all have their uniqueness, and that's cool too, because they're not clones of their fathers, and they bring their own identity to the team and differences. And that's cool too. Maybe that's from their moms. I don't know, but the whole experience is valuable and very rewarding, very, I guess, positive in the fact that we get to work with such good kids, come from good families, and that's fun as a coach.
And I'm glad you mentioned Brandon and his love for football, because being committed to baseball so early on, I think that some people might have thought, oh, he likes baseball a lot more than football, but you're saying that's not the case.
Well, he loves baseball too.
Right.
He does. Whatever he's playing, he loves. I mean, he loves it. He's a competitor. But when it's baseball season, you ask him what his favorite is. Right now, I'm going to play baseball, so that's my favorite. Yeah. If he's going to play football, that's his favorite. He loves competition. He loves playing. He loves practicing. He loves training for it. And that's, you can't fake that. Some kids do all those things because their parents drive them. He's not like that at all. I mean, he is, every opportunity he gets, he is training in one of those two sports. He's working as a student. He's just very unique, very rare, but I mean, he loves sports and loves competing. And, I don't think he's needs to make a decision on which one he loves more, because he's going to continue to be able to do both at the college level. And I think that's cool. And somewhere down the road, he continues to compete at the college level, and those things may change. That's up to him. And, good for him for being able to continue to do both and enjoy doing both. And that's I think the coolest thing about what his opportunity is coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the proof is that you've had several players that have been multi-sports, even into high school, going back to Mac Hippenhammer, eventually Chose. And, the pedigree is there, and he has another high recruit that's going to Notre Dame as well to play dual sports. So, the proof is there that it is definitely possible to do. But what a tough task that is, especially at Notre Dame with that academic workload and that sort of thing. That can't be easy, but I would expect that if anybody could handle it, it'd be Brandon Logan.
Well, I think certainly, and it does take a special kind of kid to be able to be committed to do two sports at a high level. And he certainly does that. He embodies what it takes to be successful. He really does, through his work ethic. And I give credit to his family because they've helped support him in doing the things that he wants to do and provide him with the opportunities to develop and continue to progress in the manner that he has, and continue to allow him to seek out the things that he really enjoys doing, and that's playing football and baseball. That's just cool.
Coach, going back to the game this Friday, I mean, earlier on this year, we talked about guys going both ways, and we really haven't seen a whole lot of that from Landon Fry on the offensive end. Is that something where he is so busy on defense, leading the team with 33 tackles, and he has 3 interceptions on the season, which is impressive as well. But we're not seeing anything in the rushing stats. Is he just primarily going to stick to the defensive side? Are you guys thinking as a staff?
No, he's worked a lot on offense too. But we also have to be conscious of he might be the MVP for us on defense. He just plays so well. And I think he had 15 tackles, whether it be solos or assisted tackles on Friday night against Carroll. He makes 2 tackles that if he doesn't make the tackle, the guy probably runs for a touchdown. And he's just playing very, very, very well. Yes. We're also in the hottest part of the season, and sometimes, you got to be wise with kids and their ability to be fresh. Mm-hmm. And I think as the weather cools, he'll be seen a little bit more on both sides. But he's always worked offense, continues to, and I think you'll continue to see him on both sides of the ball the rest of the season.
Coach, ever since he stepped on the field his sophomore year, I believe he had a pick 6 against Concordia. But Landon seems to have a very unique ability, especially for a linebacker, to track that ball and gather interceptions. Do you see that as well?
Absolutely. He's another baseball guy. Those things, he's used to tracking balls all over the place or fielding balls at the hot corner over there. And, Landon Fry is good at everything. If you threw out the ping pong paddles and ping pong ball, he'd whip everybody in that, or get the pickleball stuff out. Throw a basketball out there. He's going to be good at that. I don't care what it is. He's just good. He's our long snapper. He's long snapped for us the last 3 years, both in the field goals and the punts. He's good at everything. We joke all the time. He could line up and play quarterback and do very well. He could play any position. I think he could play any position on the field. He'd be a great offensive lineman. He'd be a great defensive lineman. He's a great linebacker. He can go out and cover guys, in the secondary. He's just crafty. He's instinctual. He's just a player. Roll the ball out there, and he's going to be good. And I love being around him every day. He's another guy that he just loves competing. Brandon and Landon started coming and working out with us when they might have been in 4th grade. Their parents would drop them off, and they'd just come. They'd run around the track, and they'd beat everybody when they were 4th and 5th graders. You knew they were going to be good because they just loved working out, and they've been around us forever. Good Snider families, and 2 kids that just love to compete, and that's there. And a lot of other seniors are like those guys, but those 2 multi-sport athletes, very successful in 2 sports, I think are really unique.
Wow. So they've been tied together since the 4th grade.
Oh yeah. I don't know whose mom dropped them off, but they'd come all the time. They 2 little dudes, show up, and they'd start running with everybody.
That's awesome.
And we do a ton of stuff in the summer in terms of conditioning and training, and even during COVID, heck, they were around here doing all that stuff. And it was good. They've been great kids, and it's been a pleasure to coach them over the last 4 years.
And I'm sure that plays a big part in wanting to have this season last as long as possible to keep these seniors with you as long as possible, Coach.
Absolutely. It's a great group. It's a smaller group. We only have 18 seniors, and we're usually above that, but it's a very quality group, and, good students, number one. They're all excelling in the classroom. They've all improved as students, and that's probably something that we're most proud of, is that they're excelling in the classroom. Last year had the highest GPA we've ever had as a program, as a team. And their class was instrumental in that. But and then on the field, you don't have to ever talk to them about effort. They coach themselves in terms of effort. They're intelligent. They're good guys. They love football. And it's our job as coaches to help them have the best senior season they can possibly have. And that's what we're kind of intent on.
Coach, one of the guys I wanted to point out, Keaton Robinson, third on the team in receptions. I believe he has 5 receptions on the season. For 51 yards. He's only a sophomore, but obviously there's something you like about him because he keeps getting out on the field and making plays for you.
He sure does. He's another legacy. His dad played here, J.J. Robinson. Another great tailback here, and Keaton's right in that same mold. Very elusive, young guy, still small, hasn't matured yet, hasn't hit that growth spurt, but very elusive, very savvy on the football field, great hands, can catch everything. Quick, works extremely hard, and his future is really bright, really bright. We're really excited about Keaton and his ability as an offensive player, special teams, returns kicks, punts, special kid.
And then the other guy that Tim and I really enjoyed watching play is Braylon Fertile, the sophomore linebacker. He's this big, Coach. For a sophomore to go 6'1", 200 pounds and move like he does, how's he been progressing this season?
Well, it's Fertile.
Fertile.
Yeah, Brandon Fertile. Brandon, very successful athlete too, played varsity basketball as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And played quite a few games at the varsity level. So, I think that's helped him tremendously, being, in that environment where, elite guys are competing against each other at the varsity level. I think that's helped him tremendously. He has the physical abilities, the size, and the strength and the speed. We identified him last year as a freshman that we thought could help us as a sophomore. And he's another kid, just continues to get better every game. But I really believe that his participation in basketball has helped him as a football player, especially a football guy that you're asking to play early on. His experience as a basketball player, I think, has allowed him to be his improvement to be so as fast as it has. Very intelligent kid, another hardworking kid, and his ceiling is really, really high too in terms of what he can become both on the football field and the basketball court. Very, very skilled in both sports.
Is his dad Alf?
Yes.
Okay, so his dad is a All-American defensive lineman from St. Francis.
Correct.
Now it all makes sense.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Coach, last question for me for Friday. Could you pick out a specific player or maybe position group on each side of the ball that's really going to have to step up Friday at Homestead to get the win?
Well, we always believe it starts up front, and I would say the offensive line. Everything starts up front. If you can't block them, you're going to struggle. If you can't defend the line of scrimmage and be gap sound, you're going to struggle stopping them. So, offensive line. And then, I think everybody has a hand in this, but we can't turn the ball over. and expect to be successful. So, the O&D lines, and then, obviously ball security and likewise getting the ball out. Friday's game was the first time that we hadn't caused a turnover on defense. First game we hadn't caused a turnover. And I think that has a big part in things. And that's a credit to Carroll, but also, we didn't cause turnovers. And that's got to be part of our recipe. It's the first game that we had a negative turnover ratio for the game. And so that's a big stat. I mean, that's cliche. Everybody talks about the turnover ratio in terms of determining outcomes of football games, but it's true. And we put a ton of emphasis on both securing the ball and getting the ball out. And, we were on the bad side of that on Friday, and that's another specific item that you can point to that, led to not being successful.
Yeah, those things become cliche because they are true. Year in and year out, Coach. There's no question.
Absolutely right. I mean, we're +8 on the season. And, other than the Warren Central game, which is a little bit of an anomaly because I don't know that – that defense is phenomenal. And nobody's scoring on them. They've given up 7 points in regulation. They played Ben Davis and beat Ben Davis, but 14 of those points were scored in overtime or whatever that was. But, we caused more turnovers in that game, but still came up short. But, in every game we've won the turnover battle, and I think that's a big part of our success. And that's got to continue to be our recipe. Don't turn it over and cause them to turn it over. Get the ball back in our offense's hands in good field position.
Yeah, Coach, and a big part of your success has always been strong special teams play. Your kick return unit a year ago was just so lethal. Jamarion Calabodi is back returning kicks for you. But what are you seeing from the kick return unit this year that do you feel like it took a step back from the year before, or are you seeing the kind of production that you guys want to see from that unit?
Well, if you look at our average starting field position on kickoff return, it's at or a little bit better than we were last year. But what's happening is not everybody is kicking it deep to us. So they're choosing to kick it short, which, again, doesn't get the ball in the hands of some of those guys, but gives us good field position by nature of where they kick it. So we're more interested in what that number ends up being. The better your starting field position, your percentage for scoring drives greatly increases. So we're happy with our return team. I think our punt return, the frustrating part is we've probably returned 2 or 3 kicks for touchdowns that have been called back because of penalties. And so those are things that we've been probably more effort in trying to fix, blocks that, you can't hit a guy blindside with your shoulder first. You got to have your arms extended. And, there's just something about a kid, a 15, 16-year-old, that when they see somebody running and they're going to block them, they cannot resist hitting them with their shoulder instead of putting their arms out and doing it like it's legal to do and instructed to do. And, there's also something about just hitting somebody in the back. I don't understand it. You can't hit a guy in the back, but yet we still have that. It's just like honey or a bee to honey. It's asking me, come on, hit me. And some of our guys just can't resist. And it's getting something that's been a big point of emphasis because it has hurt us in some of those big returns where we've gone to the house, but it's getting called back because of legitimate penalties. It's something that we have to be more disciplined in getting kids to understand and do better.
Yeah, Coach. And like you said, that comes with the maturity. And as the season progresses, those things get cleaned up. I just got one last question for you. This comes from Jaron Matheny, but he wants to know the biggest key for the offense to find rhythm against Homestead early. You referenced the offensive line. So are you saying like the run game, getting that established? But what would you say the biggest key is?
Well, I think the run game, but also being balanced, when we're running it, we need to get 3 to 4 yards each time. And when we're throwing it, we got to get completions, whether those are possession throws for, even if it's a 5-yard little play or an 8-yard route. What hurts us is, trying to be balanced and throwing it in a run situation and having an incomplete pass. pass. Well, then that puts you behind the sticks.
Right.
Or running it and getting stuff for no gain, again, puts you behind the sticks. So the situation is the same in that you just got to be productive no matter what play you call. And it's less about tricking them or less about fooling them. They thought we were going to run and we threw it, or they thought we were going to throw it and we ran it. It's not about that. It's about, if we're going to run the ball, let's execute what we're supposed to block, how we're supposed to block it, and where the ball is supposed to go. If we're going to throw it, let's execute the protection, let's execute the route, let's execute the read, and let's execute the throw. So, those things have been more of our desire. And the more balanced we are, I think the harder it is to defend. If you become one-dimensional, the easier it is to defend, unless you're just more talented than everybody. And that is not right. So, that's our goal. And I think that, again, that all starts with the guys up front, and then the guys touching the ball got to do their job as well.
Yeah. Well, excellent, Coach. We wish you all the best of luck this Friday, 7 p.m. at Spuller Stadium. This is one of the premier matchups in the SAC. These two 6A powerhouses. Of course, Snider 5A playing up from the success factor. So, Coach, thanks again for joining us, and good luck on Friday.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's always enjoyable, and this is kind of a cool new thing you're doing, so keep it going.
Well,
thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Always great, Tim, to talk with head coach Kurt Tippmann. And last Friday, I mean, it really does speak to the youth of that team. And he's talking about all those little mistakes. You remember yesterday we were talking about East Noble and that great play that the wide receiver made where he faked that he was going to block and then blew right past the DB.
Right.
You can only do that when you are that comfortable in your system. You don't even have to think about what the play is. You can think about the nuances of the play, something like that, to break down a defensive back. On a defensive side of the ball, when your linebacker shows fake blitz or something, those are things that you can incorporate after they already know the scheme. So I love to hear Coach talking about it. They know it. They are really, really close. Just a few things that you got to get cleaned up. And you look at that 30-6 score and you say, ouch, man, that's a hurter. But yeah, when you're losing the turnover battle like that, those are extra possessions. So, right. So tough game there, but these guys will bounce back. And this is going to be a fun game at Spuller.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm definitely jealous of you. I got to be out of town for a wedding, so I don't have a game this weekend. But yeah, I mean, what a tremendous coach and mouthpiece for a program, and head coach Kurt Tippmann. He impresses me every time we talk to him. But this season's not over, and I'm sure he's telling these kids that the SAC is still attainable for the Snider Panthers. I think a one-loss team, two one-loss teams, and another split like we had last year is definitely in the works, but they're going to have to win this Friday against Homestead. It's good to be back at home /Spuller, but his kids are going to be ready. They're going to play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I can guarantee you, maybe a little bit more giddy up in their step. And I expect Snider at home to really, really bounce back from the game against Carroll. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed win, but I think they will play a lot better as a team, both offensively and defensively. But looking at the stats, they didn't play horrible defensively. Jimmy just did a lot of things himself. He's very impressive quarterback. He's going to the Big Ten in Iowa for a reason. He wasn't recruited to a Power 5 just because he's from Carroll. He is a legit Power 5 quarterback, both running and throwing. So they're not going to see another quarterback like him, Jeff. It's not going to happen. They didn't even see that at Warren Central. He's a difference. He's a difference maker for Carroll. But to have this be another opponent in sectional play, I just hope they don't get first round. Please, I'd love to have this thing seeded. But we don't have any say in that. Even if they played them first round of that sectional, will be huge in this city. No doubt about it. For our hope, let's hope it's at Snider if that happens.
Well, Coach talks about all those legacies being on the team.
Yes.
that just speaks to the great job that he's been able to do carrying the torch over there at Snider, because all the players that he coached and he played with are sending their boys over to Snider. And not only that, they're getting them over there early. You heard him talk about Landon Fry and Logan in the 4th grade. So
that's amazing. Yeah, you saw Jabbar Robinson come back in town and brought his kid, Niso. He's got a daughter that plays on the basketball team, does Jabbar. One of the best Snider players in the history of the program. Me and you always have a fonding for Jabbar, but that speaks volumes. There's not many programs that you see generation after generation come through. You see it at Lures, here at Bishop Dwenger, but it doesn't happen all over the state like it does here in the 260, especially with those 3 programs. It's pretty impressive to see, but it starts with being I hate the players coach terminology type of thing, but you got to be able to do both. You got to be able to sit with, he talked about sitting with Brandon Logan Sr., just watching games by himself back in the day, those two just dissecting film. That's the type of stuff that builds that legacy. And I'm sure when Brandon Logan Sr., when they're thinking, okay, it's not always guaranteed. You may not live in the district, they happen to, but you may not live in the district. And, with open enrollment, where are you going to choose to go to school? Well, I had some of my best 4 years at Snider, these players would say. So, I would love to have my son or daughter on the, wherever it may be, come back to the program in that high school. It's great to see. And I root for Coach Tippmann. You do as well, like we do with, pretty much everyone here in the 260. But, he's a stand-up character guy. And, I think Friday night we're going to see a little bit of a different Snider team.
Yeah, Coach maybe wishes I didn't cheer for him so much during the broadcast. That I know that can get a little annoying. But Tim, you talk about being a player's coach, and the kids need that love. They need that recognition to go out there and put it on the line day in and day out. And I'll say it again. When I was in high school, my senior year, all the guys that graduated from Snider, they got a packet that thick that had all the stories that were written, all the stats.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's showing love to the kids, and they do it better than almost anybody.
Yeah, it's their media guide with Tyler Selhorn and putting that out every week. Northrop now with Coach Q coming from Snider, he's taken that blueprint. East Noble sent us one. Snider has been doing that for a long time. Some the other schools are starting to catch up with that now, with the importance of brand recognition, sending out a big packet with stats and schedules, histories, and all that sort of stuff out to the media, which now gives us more things to talk about than just a play-by-play type of situation. Big shout out to the guys that do that. A lot of them are volunteers. They're not getting paid to put that time in for those media guides. So much respect out there to the guys that do that. But yeah, I'm excited. We'll see how it shakes out Friday night. But like I said, this is a pivotal game for both Homestead and Snider. We'll get to talk to Coach Zolman. I believe tomorrow we have that set up. So we'll talk to Coach Zolman tomorrow night, and we'll ask him some of the same questions. But I think this is going to be a downright battle, and I think it's going to be a very close game.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, enjoy the soccer match. Who do you got tonight?
Snider at Bishop Dwenger girls. Okay. Two more weeks left of the regular season. Sectional pairings for both the boys and girls come this Sunday night on the Champions Network. So we're looking forward to see where all the 260 teams are headed for sectionals and on down the road. But tonight, and a very good Bishop Dwenger team and a rival and the Snider Panthers in the SAC. Dwenger, the only undefeated team in the SAC. Snider at 4-1. So this is a must-win for Dwenger to get that stranglehold of the SAC crown.
And who was Snider's lone loss to? Is that Northrop?
It was 4-0. It was 4-0 or 5-0. And Dwenger, when they played Northrop here 2 weeks ago, beat Northrop 2-1. This Dwenger team is it's one of the more deep teams I've seen in covering soccer over the past decade. They are, even going back to their state title win about 5-6 years ago. This is a very deep team. They play freshmen to seniors. It's going to be an exciting run to see what happens, but we got lots of talent in all sports in the city of Fort Wayne. Just go out to your local high school, folks. You'll see it. And if you can't get out there, make sure you tune in to Summit City Sports.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Tim's second oldest daughter is on the soccer team. So, Tim, thank you for taking some time out of taking some time away from father time to join us here on the Summit City Sports Report. So we do appreciate that.
Absolutely, Jeff. Wouldn't be anywhere else. I love it, and I have a lot of fun. You know that. And good luck Friday night, Jeff. It's gonna be a great call out there at Spuller. Is Jaron with you?
Yeah, Jaron Matheny.
You, Jaron, and Pat, go knock it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe you can sneak away from the wedding and pull up a little YouTube video real quick. So,
well, there may be too many pops involved, if you know what I'm saying. We'll see what happens.
Well, everybody, that's Tim Atkinson. I'm Jeff Mahoney. This Friday, Homestead at Snider at Spuller Stadium. These two teams, both 6A, both 3-2, both need to get this dub. Should be a fun one. Join us at Spuller Stadium this Friday, 7 p.m.
Yep. See you, everybody. Appreciate you, Jeff.